What is going on, y'all? How is everybody doing? All right, I just switched your audio over, so they missed that hello.
They missed the hello.
There
That's
we go.
Okay.
All right, no
I'll
technical difficulties so far. Look at us. Look at this.
Fixing it real time with little issues, if any.
I like this. What's going on, y'all? Happy Thursday.
Yeah. Happy almost weekend. Hope everybody's had a good week.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to just switch the brain off and go into weekend mode. I'm not gonna
take a nap.
Yeah, this I might try to. I can't skip Friday, but I want to skip Friday and go right into Saturday. Let's be real.
Well, you can nap as soon as you can close your laptop tomorrow. Maybe plan to do that.
Yeah.
I'll be doing some R&R myself after a bachelor party in Charleston last weekend. So I'm still catching up on sleep after that.
What's going on, Iron? How you doing, man?
What's up, Iron? But before we get to the weekend, we had a spirited discussion on Tuesday about our wide receiver rankings between 13 and 24. And while we were in relative lockstep for our top 12, there was not nearly as much lockstep in wide receivers 13 to 24.
I would say we were in lockstep in terms of the players that we had in the list.
Yeah.
We just didn't have them like anywhere close to the same placement in the rankings.
Yeah.
What's going on, Slim? How you doing, bro?
The rankings themselves were different. The names were for the most part the same with a couple of differences.
Yeah.
Today might be even more of an extreme as far as just like different positions, but regardless, we felt different rankings for the different guys between 25 and 36. Regardless, we felt like it would be a good exercise to continue the wide receiver conversation. We had a few people in Tuesday's stream say that they would be open to hearing our continued discussion about the wide receivers for the 2022 season that we have ranked in the top 36. These are guys that we have listed as our wide receiver threes for the season. I'm happy to jump right into this. But before we do that, we can get to the chat.
I will say yes, Slim. Thanks for being a member for 3 months. I see that you got the members message or the members super chat type thing perk enabled for you. I like that. But yeah, I would say a 24 first and a third are definitely worth it for Travis Etienne because they're a year out. So you can still reacquire a 24 first sometime within the next two years for another, maybe an aging player on your team or something like that, and just keep it moving. But yeah, I would pay that price to get Travis Etienne on my squad.
I would as well. The most recent report, Doug Peterson, head coach of the Jags, had previously been tried to be optimistic about James Robinson and his return to the field. The latest report came out, not unexpected at all, that Robinson is not expected to be ready for training camp, which means his timeline continues to be rehab and recovery. And as we saw with Cam Akers last year, despite a miraculous turnaround, recovery and return does not mean production or any type of or any type of fair expectation that can be had. I root for James Robinson. I root for anybody like James Robinson, an undrafted free agent who blows the doors off, comes out of nowhere, beats the odds, defies the expectations, and sets himself up for a nice payday. I am worried that this might be a lost season for James Robinson because of the nature of this injury.
I'm not worried that's gonna happen. I predict that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen.
You almost expect it to happen.
Yeah,
maybe he's able to contribute and give you a little something by the fantasy playoffs, like the end of the season. But that's if Jacksonville is playing for something to begin with. So yeah, I think ETN is going to get all the work he can handle. I love taking a shot on him around the 3-4 turn in 12-team leagues. In PPR, I'll go even higher than that. I'm talking about redraft, but this correlates to Dynasty as well, to the point being I will send you an asset that is 2 years out for a guy who I think has strong RB2 upside this year in Travis Etienne. I think he's got a floor of 50 catches, and that might be a little conservative.
Yeah.
So, yeah, send it out. Send it out, Slim. If you can get Etienne for that, do the deal. I'm on board with that. Iron, the Vikings are 3-0. Vienna, that is. That's exciting. Look at them. What are the standings over there right now?
I mean, they got to be up at the top if they're 3-0.
I mean, if they're 3-0, you're undefeated. You're looking good.
I know look at that. Look at that. That's cool. The next game, it looks like y'all have looks like y'all are playing Istanbul.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah. 2 out of the next 3 games for Vienna, for the Vienna Vikings, are playing opponents in places I used to live. So that's kind of wild.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Maybe
their division looks like they might stink. So they're could be cruising along to a little Central Conference title there.
But yeah, man, I'm glad you're having fun with this European League of Football that you're that they got going over there. That's cool. I'm glad that you get a little bit of a diversion away from, just regular life in the off season of NFL football, and you can watch and enjoy those games over there. So that's dope.
Get a little taste of off-season football. So I got a bit with the USFL this year.
Did you pay attention to that at all?
Pay attention? No. Like, check in here and there.
I said I was going to. I said, all right, Philly's got a team. I'm going to check this out. And then at the end of the day, I didn't even check in once.
Yeah, I would. I tapped in here and there. But I didn't stick around for very long for any given game. But the dial was tuned in here and there.
A 23 third and a 24 first Slim is fine for me. Yes. I would be willing to do that. It doesn't matter what year the third round pick is in, because if you can go, you can get a third for one of the middling players on your roster. And
third round picks are you can acquire those in your sleep.
And I do just want to throw this out because this is a stat that I did not know and I found pretty interesting, which is draft pick hit rates. The first round hit rate, which is a first round pick who becomes a starter within 3 seasons, is 45.8. Second round hit rate is 30.6. Third round hit rate is 9.3. You have less than a 10% chance of a third round pick becoming a starter for your team after 3 seasons in the league. So don't be afraid to ship a third round pick off, especially if you are thinking that you're a contender or will be a contender in the future. Because I mean that number from 9.3 goes down if it's a late third too. So yeah, I really wouldn't worry about it. Really wouldn't worry about that third. I'd ship that deal off right now and be cool with it.
Agreed. Yep. I like that deal for you. I think ETN's going to have a solid season. Yeah. I'm not predicting an RB1 season, but I do think he's going to be a rock solid RB2 this year.
All right, so you want to start off with these rankings?
Yep, let's dive right in. So, to recap the wide receivers 13 to 24, just for awareness. You might have to help me out with this one.
Mm-hmm.
But we both had A.J. Brown as our wide receiver 13.
Yep.
John had Keenan Allen as his wide receiver 14. I had Mike Williams as my wide receiver 14. We flip-flop. The other one is both in our top 12.
Mm-hmm. Our 11, basically the 11th in our top 12.
Actually, it's the 11th. Yeah. And then it's some combination. I'm just throwing names out here. DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, Rashad Bateman, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Marquise Brown, Deontay Johnson, Allen Robinson, and one of the Broncos receivers. I have Judy in my top 24. John had Cortland Sutton in his top 24. And then I had Jalen Waddle in my top 24, and John had Darnell Mooney in his top 24. I think I got all of the names. I know that's a ragtag. The live stream was on Tuesday. If you want to check it out, it is timestamped with our conversation about each one of these guys.
And that's a live stream that I plan on cutting up over the weekend to be able to drip out some of those snippets so that the next week you be on the lookout for, if you just want to check into the Brandon Cooks video, part of the stream, or the Rashad Bateman part of the stream, or whatever.
Right.
You will be able to do that next week. We'll be having those out for you next week.
Yep. So looks like my dog's creeping into the background. He's about to take a nap on the couch. Utley's he's tuckered out as well. So that's the list of names. You can check out it's timestamped if you want to check out Tuesday's live stream. John is also going to cut it up maybe sometime next week. It might be like a 2 week.
There's a couple of live streams that we still got to cut up and
we got to cut up
and put those out there, but be on the lookout.
Back,
be on the lookout.
Do rankings, all that good stuff. But anyway, if you want to check it out ahead of time, Tuesday's live stream is timestamped. That leads us to the conversation today. Wide receivers 25 to 36. I can only imagine our rankings here are different, maybe some similar names. I'm happy to kick this off if you want me to, unless there's any one specific guy where it's like, this guy's my wide receiver 3, just missed my wide receiver 2 rankings, and here's why I love him.
I mean, you already know the next guy on my list here, the next 2, really would be Jalen Waddle and Jerry Jeudy.
Yep. Both guys made my top 24. Both guys just miss your top 24. They kick off your rankings 25 and 26.
But why don't you start it off and then we'll just go from there.
Sure. So my wide receiver 25, my first wide receiver 3 this year, I actually got a video coming out about him this weekend. I might have pushed it to either Friday or Saturday.
I pushed it to Sunday actually, but we can backtrack and make it Saturday too.
We've got some stuff in the pipeline for you. Yeah. That's what helps. My wide receiver 25 is Chris Godwin. And I want to caveat, in the video that I did, I mentioned, and I'll always advocate for this, that I'm not crazy about the strategy of drafting guys who I know are not going to play week 1. Suspension is one thing, or a holdout is one thing. An injury is different. When a guy is rehabbing from an injury, I'm much more cautious. The reason I'm okay with taking a shot on Chris Godwin is because right now his ADP is somewhere around, I think it's crept into the 40s actually, but somewhere as soon as like the middle of the 4th round down to the 5th round, we expect Godwin to return sometime in the first half of the 2021 season. So he might miss the first month. I was wrong. Godwin's ADP on Underdog Fantasy is 58. So right around like the end of the 5th round, you can get Chris Godwin. Mm-hmm. We expect him to return sometime in the middle of the season, maybe as soon as like week 6 or week 7. If he does, could take a couple of weeks to get up to speed, but for the second half of the year, you're going to be paying a 5th round draft pick for a guy with wide receiver 1 upside. Godwin set a career high last year in catches in just 14 games with 98, 1,100 receiving yards. I think he only had like 5 touchdowns, but he's regularly in that 7 to 9 range. And again, he missed the last 3 games of the season, so probably would have collected another couple of scores with the way Brady was playing last year. Wide receiver 1 upside in the 5th round. I I suggest if you go after Godwin in your drafts, prioritize grabbing Russell Gage, who I don't have as a wide receiver 3, but will be a wide receiver 3 if Godwin has any issues or setbacks with his return or just isn't ready to play as soon as we hope. So I would prioritize, if you draft Godwin in the 5th round, maybe as early as like the 7th round, just go get Russell Gage to protect your investment. So that's my caveat. But the upside there, even if you spend a 7th round pick on Russell Gage in this scenario and maybe he's obsolete when Godwin returns, he's obsolete because Godwin's operating as a wide receiver 1 again in the second half of the season.
And I don't think, just to interject here, I don't think that'll make I don't think that'll make Russell Gage completely obsolete. We saw Tom Brady sustain 3 wide receivers plus Rob Gronkowski last year.
Yeah, he can do it.
So I'm not too worried if I'm investing in Gage that as soon as Godwin comes in, Gage is going to completely drop off the map. I think he sustains production. But with respect to Gage, in 2020, with respect to Chris Godwin, in 2020, Chris Godwin only played 12 games. He was the wide receiver 15 in points per game and was the wide receiver 19 by the end of the season, even though he only played 12 games. He missed 5. We're expecting him this season to miss 6, but there is 1 more game in the season. So there's a very good possibility that Godwin, with no AB, with no Gronkowski, comes in and is the wide receiver 15 in points per game or better for on the season. And at the end of the season, you're looking at having a wide receiver 2 in terms of point totals, despite him missing 6 games. So yeah, I like that pick at
it's risky for sure.
25.
It's risky for sure, but with that ADP and that upside, that's a swing for the fences that I'm more than okay with taking.
Yeah, the upside is absolutely there.
Did Godwin make your top 20 or top 36?
So I got to be completely honest with y'all. He did, but I did not have the time to devote to actually making concrete rankings for this stream because new job. I'm less than a week into the new job, and they're throwing the book at me. So I'm just trying to keep my head above water. There, don't have as much free time to devote to this as I would like. That'll cool out as I get more used to the job. But just today was a difficult one for me. It was a choice between either put out video content or work on my rankings for the stream. And I figured we could just kind of talk through these players as they come up.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
And I would rather get you guys content and still be able to be on the live stream than have rankings and not give you guys content today. So I don't have concrete rankings here, but I don't disagree that Godwin deserves to be ranked wide receiver 25 based on his upside.
Yeah, the upside is humongous.
And Rojo, I love that trade. Good job. If you're a contender, that's a great trade to make.
Well, I see you got Landry for a third. First of all, that's a layup. What's going on, Alex?
What's going on, Alex?
And then Kamara, Jarvis, Olave, Thomas, Winston, and Abram Smith. Yeah, really. I mean, you're just
look at that stack though.
You're just the Rojo Saints.
Yeah, look at that stack. That's a stack on stack on stack. Now you just need Troutman.
Yeah. Maybe some Traquan Smith sprinkled in. It's like, I'll give you a 2025.
Wouldn't go that
2025 4th round pick.
Wouldn't go that far.
I'm just getting excited.
But
I do like Abram Smith.
I like
though.
that. I know you do. You're the first person who I heard talk about him, and then since then I've heard multiple people talk about Abram Smith. So
I don't think we ever put a video out about him, so I might have missed the boat on that one.
We still got time.
I liked Abram Smith. It sounds like Kamara might be playing for the team week 1, just based on the fact that his court date got pushed back to so late in the offseason. But the fact remains, I mean, Mark Ingram is what is he, 33 at this point?
I believe so, yes.
And Tony Jones Jr. is
I'd rather have Abram Smith.
Not that guy. Like, yeah, give me the upside of the young guy. Not a believer in Tony Jones Jr. Someone tried to troll us on a video that we did on Tony Jones Jr. like 9 months ago about how he's a starter now. And I was like, well, first of all, no, he's not. And second of all, even if he was, this video is almost a year old.
Yeah, and that's just a weird flex in general.
And it's not even a flex because he was wrong.
Well,
so
yeah,
whatever.
but, you know, he was trying. The attempt was
there. He tried his hardest. And then asked his mom for some more Hot Pockets. Anyway, so I've Godwin at 25. You have Waddle at 25. I don't know if there's anything specific. We talked extensively about Waddle in the wide receiver 24 conversation, top 24 conversation. You have. I'll just like sum it up briefly for you. If you want to interject at all, go for it. But you're just not that big of a believer in Tua, and with Tyreek Hill coming in, absorbing a massive target share, you have concerns about where Waddle's being drafted right now, which is probably pretty close to his ceiling.
And them re-upping Gesicki, and them bringing in pass-catching back Chase Edmonds, them bringing in Cedric Wilson. I know he shouldn't take away too many targets from Waddle, but he is there. And then going and getting rookie Eric Ezukanma, who is slightly underrated, but the landing spot there means that he's not going to get a lot of work straight out the gate. But he also is there. There's just a lot of people in that offense now, and Tua's not the quarterback, the type of quarterback I believe that can sustain really more than two fantasy relevant players, and even then I'm wondering how highly ranked those players will end up being. I just have very many concerns about Tua-led offense in 2022.
Fair enough. I like Waddle a little bit more, but obviously the concerns are legitimate.
I love Waddle, the talent. I don't want to ever have you guys misconstrue my concerns about Waddle for this season with any concerns about his talent. Based on talent, the dude is amazing and should have a great NFL career. And if I have him on my fantasy team, my Dynasty team, there's no reason for me to be shipping him off for literally...
No, hold.
I mean, outside of a very few amount of players, unless you can upgrade to a Chase or a Jefferson, there's no reason I'm trying to get Waddle off my team.
Yeah. Real quick, just go to the chat.
What's going on, Scott? What's going on,
Scott? Yeah, Slim. Everybody. Yeah, Abram Smith, highest paid UDFA. Like that's got to count for something.
Yeah,
got to count for something. As far as all the Colts, I love the Colts skill position guys. They get a quarterback upgrade in Matt Ryan. Pittman gets a boost. Whoever the wide receiver 2 is, I think if he can stay healthy,
it's gonna be Paris Campbell.
It's gonna be Paris Campbell, and the talent is there.
Second round pick from Ohio State, right? Yeah, and literally the only thing that has been in his way has been health.
Paris Campbell's a sneaky late guy to be targeting, but I like Nyheim Hines. Matt Ryan's not afraid to utilize running backs in the
Ali Cox,
in the passing game, and Big Mo. I mean, all Matt Ryan does is support low end tight end 1 seasons, and right now you can Mo Alley's ADP is still like 210. I'm like, this is just,
people have been hating on Matt Ryan for a long time, and I just don't think it's fair.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Scott, appreciate noticing the haircut. Yeah, it had to happen. The flow had its run. Is it gone forever? You never say never.
He lives out in Cali, so the man bun is coming back.
There's a lot of that hippie influence out here. So,
and I just got to throw in, as it pertains to Alec Pierce, I'm not the biggest Alec Pierce fan. I know
you're not
just
crazy
threw
about
Alec Pierce into that group. Not crazy about Pierce. I think by the time he is ready to really assert himself as just the number 2 in this offense, Matt Ryan's probably going to be gone. Because I don't think Alec Pierce comes in and lights the world on fire.
He was more of a raw prospect. There might be like 1 season of overlap, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, Abram Smith is a good late round target. Scott mentioned Snoop Connor. Snoop Connor's, and again, we just got done talking about we're not high on James Robinson because of the severity of an Achilles tear. and the lengthy and long rehab process that often comes along with an injury of that significance. So yeah, Snoop Connor's a great late round flyer. Anywhere, 4th round of rookie drafts, 18th pick in a best ball draft. Like, there's no bell cows aren't a thing anymore.
I will say this: if I'm
going
for one of the depth running backs on the Jacksonville Jaguars, if it's a season-long league, there's no way I'm taking Connor over Raekwell Armstead. And Raekwell Armstead will be one of the guys that we talk about in the next members-only live stream when we talk about forgotten running backs. The dude's way more athletic.
He is.
Than Snoop Connor. It's not even close.
He is.
So I do just want to say that whenever Snoop Connor's brought up, I do just have to say Raekwell Armstead's probably outside of rookie mocks or rookie drafts, Raekwell Armstead's the guy to be targeting there.
Yeah, that's fair. Somebody's going to have to take work away from or someone's going to have to spell ETN. Armstead is listed ahead of Snoop Connor on the depth chart. So, and I don't care how early those depth charts are put out. I take stock in that.
Yep.
Like, I take stock in the fact that Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead are both ahead of Dameon Pierce right now on the depth chart. Different conversation, but yeah. So Armstead, also a sneaky guy to look at who can be had for free in the 18th round of a best ball draft. So yeah, decent opportunity there. Let's get back to the wide receivers. You just got to, all right. So Waddle's your wide receiver 25. But
again, he is just because he missed the top 24. Again, I don't have solidified rankings for this group.
Yeah, but it feels like your arrow is more down on him than he's.
I wouldn't be surprised if he finished wide receiver 25.
Okay, so that's all that needs to be said there.
Yeah.
You have Jerry Jeudy as your wide receiver 26. I have Cortland Sutton as my wide receiver 26. So similar to the Chargers, we are both slightly flip-flopped on them. They're close in our rankings. But I have Jeudy in my top 24. You have Sutton in your top 24, and then vice versa for the top 36. We talked at length about both Broncos receivers. Actually, we had 2 different lengthy segments on Tuesday about the Broncos receivers. So if you want our thoughts on the Broncos receivers, I'm just going to move on at this point because we spent so much time on them on Tuesday. Check them out. Again, Tuesday's live stream is timestamped. There are 2 separate occasions where we spend probably 10 minutes each talking about Sutton and Jeudy. So if
I'll say about Jeudy is I was surprised that at how young he still was when I went to look him up today. He's still 23. I didn't know. I wasn't keying into the fact that he came into the league so young. In my mind, I think, all right, this is his third year in the league. He's got to be going on 25? Nah, man, he's 23, and he just turned 23.
Right, still young, still fresh, still learning.
Yeah,
I'm not off the Jerry Jeudy train. But Tuesday stream, we talked at length about the Broncos receivers. If you care to check out our more of a deep dive on those 2. Who you got at your wide receiver 27?
Again, don't have rankings, so you're going to have to take the lead here.
Okay. My guy's Darnell Mooney, who you had as your wide receiver 24.
Yeah.
Mooney slots in a few slots below me. I have him as a high-end wide receiver 3. I fully expect him to be able to deliver wide receiver 2 weeks here and there. I question, can he be an X receiver for a team, especially a team with a lot of question marks? We expect the Bears to take a step forward this year on offense because there's literally no more steps to take backward after what we saw with Matt Nagy and the coaching malpractice that happened under his tutelage with Justin Fields' development. There's nowhere to go but up for the Bears offense. That being said, they did nothing this offseason to help Justin Fields other than rehaul the coaching staff.
They brought in one thing I did forget to mention when we had talked about Darnell Mooney in the past was they did bring in Byron Pringle, and they bring in Equinemius St. Brown. Yeah. So they did bring in
a couple of guys. Yeah, but I mean,
Byron Pringle's probably going to be the other guy on the other side. It probably won't be Velus Jones to start the year.
No, it'll be Pringle.
Yeah.
I mean, but like they couldn't pull off a Devontae Parker like trade, like just to give them something else. You know, I'm just spitballing here, just to help Justin Fields, just to give them something. Byron Pringle had a nice season last year. Over 40 catches, caught 5 scores. But this was all with Patrick Mahomes and that well-oiled machine in Kansas City. So let's see. Anyway, Darnell Mooney, the unquestioned top receiver on this offense. I just don't know, can he be that guy? Because as bad of a season as Allen Robinson had last year, you still had to respect the fact that he was Allen Robinson. Now Allen Robinson is gone. He's not walking through that door. It's Mooney and a bunch of journeymen and young guys who we'll see on. I believe in Mooney's talent. I think he's a good player. If he's an alpha receiver and has a top 24 season, I'll be happy for him. But I'll also, given his circumstances, I'll be kind of surprised.
I think he can have a top 24 season this year and not be an alpha receiver. I don't think he's an alpha receiver.
I don't think he is either.
But I think by nature of what the other pieces that they have in the offense, he's going to have to perform as their de facto alpha for this year. And then they're probably going to bring in somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I really wouldn't be surprised if they did that. So, yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Hunter?
What's going on, Hunter? How you doing, man?
Yeah, I mean, next year feels like whatever the situation is. I haven't looked at the 2023 wide receiver free agents yet. I guess depending on the contract negotiation, it could be like Terry McLaurin, could be Deontay Johnson, both who, of course, would be significant upgrades over what the Bears have right now outside of Mooney. But we'll see. Mooney comes in as my wide receiver 27. You had him crack your top 24. I think he's going to be good. He's going to, he's a talented player. I wonder about the week-to-week consistency with where he's going to draw the most attention on the other side of the ball.
That's a fair concern to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I hope the Bears do well. I'm pulling for Justin Fields. I liked him coming out of the pre-draft process last year. The coaching staff last year couldn't have done him fewer favors if they tried. And that's how I feel about Matt Nagy. So that's my wide receiver 27. I don't know if there's anybody you wanted to highlight here that you would put kind of higher up in your wide receiver threes. Otherwise, I'll just continue on.
I mean, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't. So who's
you have Mooney already in your top 24. So
yeah.
Let's continue the conversation. I think we have officially cleared the list of names that made the top 24. They all rounded out the first few picks of our wide receiver 25 to 36.
And here's where the names I would have
officially start to differ.
Waddle and Judy ahead of Chris Godwin.
Okay.
But I almost don't feel good about it. you know.
So
what
here's
I mean?
my very next name: Chris Godwin or Juju Smith-Schuster. Who are you taking?
Godwin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So we're in agreement there. Juju is my wide receiver 28.
And Scott, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's not good. They have Kyle Long. Oh no, Kyle Long retired and left. he retired just to get out of that situation and then moved to Kansas City. That's where he was. Kyle. Yeah. Okay. So they don't even have Kyle Long anymore. Yeah. The Bears offensive line is a major work in progress, but the Bears did nothing from a pre-snap at the line of scrimmage adjustments, getting Fields rolling out of the pocket last year. They did none of that. They didn't help him at all. So yes, like with bad offensive lines, quarterbacks who can run can overcome them. The Bears just failed to put Fields in a position to be able to overcome the bad offensive line play because they were lost and clueless. Matt Nagy should literally never have a job in the NFL again. That's how terrible he was last year, like coaching malpractice. So that being said, the offensive line is still very much a work in progress, but Justin Fields has the skill set to be able to overcome it. Maybe not on a super consistent basis because he's still a young quarterback who's learning and developing, and the Bears aren't a good team. But there are ways to scheme your guy into success. Nagy failed. Let's see if Eberflus and I'm blanking on the Bears offensive coordinator. Oh, it's oh my God, it was the guy from the Bengals, Bill Lazor. Let's see if they can have a little bit more success. It wouldn't take that much of an effort. Today it's shit on Matt Nagy day for me.
Every day is.
Shit every day is. So we'll see. Juju's my wide receiver 28, and I have to pull up his ADP because now I'm blanking on it on Underdog Fantasy.
Juju is one of the weirdest players to.
He's a bit of an enigma.
By the numbers, one of the weirdest players to analyze.
Yep, it's kind of difficult, but I'm going to give it a shot here. His ADP is 56.9 on Underdog Fantasy, so you have to go into the 5th round to get him. Last year, you got to throw it out the window. He missed most of the season due to injury. Season before that, 97 catches on 128 targets, 831 yards, 9 touchdowns. Not a bad season. 2019 was when everybody expected him to take that next step after 2 stellar seasons to open his career. Antonio Brown walks. This was 2019, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Juju's expected to take over as that alpha wide receiver for Pittsburgh and was being drafted as a top 5 wideout in redraft, and probably was for many people was probably the Dynasty wide receiver 1 at that point because of age and recent production.
That's wild. That's wild to think about in hindsight.
But it was probably the case, right? He was probably 24 years old coming off monster seasons.
It absolutely was the case.
So 2019 didn't pan out that way. Juju struggled to be an alpha wide receiver. With the emergence of Deontay Johnson, he eventually found his niche.
That was the year that Big Ben went down too. So he was dealing with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback in 2019.
Yep, you're right.
So you do have to throw that in there. The year that I look at for how to, it's the only year we can really look at because we can't go back to last year. We really have to go back to 2 years ago. And in 2020, he ran the most routes of any wide receiver in the NFL and had the 15th most targets, 7th most red zone targets, and still only finished wide receiver 24 by points per game.
Could have been a fact. Could have been Ben maybe starting to break down that year, inaccurate throws.
That should have led to Juju doing better getting more targets because if Big Ben couldn't throw,
dumping it off to a slot receiver
3 yards down the field, he should be throwing it to Juju Smith-Schuster the entire game. And that didn't play out. He did get a lot of targets. 128 isn't anything to sneeze at. Nope. But he also was operating in the part of the field where, you need to either be hyper efficient or you're not going to be. Your output isn't going to be what fantasy managers would expect on that amount of targets.
What also happened in 2020 was not only did Deontay Johnson establish himself, but Chase Claypool as a rookie had 11 touchdowns. So other players emerged for this Steelers offense that I think held Juju back. I'm not trying to make excuses for Juju directly, but Roethlisberger was still able to get it down the field a little bit, evidenced by Claypool's 10 touchdowns, and several of them were deep balls. And Deontay emerged as a PPR monster. So Juju kind of became third fiddle that year. And then last year, of course, he got hurt and missed most of the season. Fast forward to this year. Now he's in Kansas City. And he's going to be, once again, where he flourished, when he flourished, the beta, the second option in the passing game behind Travis Kelce, with a significantly better quarterback. Pat Mahomes is better now by leaps and bounds than Ben Roethlisberger was at any point when Juju was a Steeler. And that includes his first 2 seasons, because nobody was ever calling Ben Roethlisberger the literal best quarterback in the NFL. You can make that argument for Patrick Mahomes. So I actually am warming up to Juju here a little bit. I know the camp reports and OTAs have been strong about Mahomes' connection to Valdez-Scantling. Travis Kelce's probably going to soak up 150 targets, but the Chiefs have a lot of speaking of targets, they got a lot of vacated ones. Tyreek Hill's gone. We just talked about Byron Pringle moves on to Chicago, and Demarcus Robinson is gone. That's over 200 targets that are available. And now, yes, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is there. They drafted Sky Moore. They added Justin Ross as an undrafted free agent.
All this has me real worried for Juju Smith-Schuster's value by the end of the or what it will be by the end of the season. He operates in the same area of the field that Travis Kelce will operate in. When he played on Pittsburgh and he was effective, there was nobody else really operating in the same area of the field that he was operating in. Antonio Brown was just a wide receiver and operating on the boundaries.
Yeah. Or anywhere.
Right. And yeah, it's not just one wide receiver that the Chiefs brought in. They brought in 3.
Yeah, they brought in a bunch.
2 of them should assume that those outside roles. So I'm really kind of, I respect what Juju did in 2018, obviously. How can you not? 166 targets, 111 receptions, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. I respect the fact that he got to 9 touchdowns in 2020, career high in the amount of touchdowns he scored. He might end up being more touchdown dependent, just like he was in 2020 for your fantasy team for the Chiefs. And I think some people are expecting a return to 1,400-yard Juju. And I don't think I just don't think that's in the cards. They brought in Sky Moore. MBS, yes, to your point, Scott, MVS got paid a whole lot more and has more tenure in the offense now, or will have, not tenure, wrong word. You know my point. With 3 years versus 1 year, it's just, it feels weird with Juju, and I don't know how many shares of Juju I'm gonna have in really any format. As soon as he got picked up by the Chiefs, my thought process was sell, because you're probably selling at
Dynasty
peak, in any format, peak value.
Yeah.
People are going to go crazy over the fact that he's now playing with Patrick Mahomes.
Yep. But
the situation for Juju outside of the quarterback upgrade is still not great.
So yeah, and I brought up MVS and Sky Moore for a reason. They obviously spent important resources on more wide receivers. But I think you kind of just brought up why I'm willing to take a shot on Juju at his ADP. That quarterback upgrade is significant.
Yes.
We're talking about going from a dead Ben Roethlisberger to Patrick Mahomes, sans Tyreek Hill. So Travis Kelce's going to get all the work he can handle. And then, yeah, it's a bit of a grab bag. Do you follow the contract that MVS got and target him, who is admittedly way cheaper than Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's also way less proven than Juju Smith-Schuster. And he didn't come from any slouch either, catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. So I think Juju is the talent here that I'm willing to take the chance on. And I think a 100 catch season, he had 97 catches in 2020. I think a 100 catch season, sans Tyreek Hill, catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, is well within his capabilities. And so if Rashad Bateman is there, I'm just looking at Underdog Fantasy. If Bateman's there, I'm taking Bateman. If Brandon Cooks is there, I'm taking Cooks. If DK Metcalf is there, I'm taking Metcalf. If Godwin's there, I'm taking Godwin. if Amari Cooper is there, I'm taking Juju. Like if Amon-Ra St. Brown is there, I'm taking Juju. Give me the roll of the dice in the fifth round
just out
on
of
the
curiosity,
guy who has had like significant production before.
And I know this is a wide receiver centric live stream. Who are the other positions, players at other positions that are available around the same area?
So I'll go as high as I'll go as high as like 10 spots higher.
Because for my money, I think I would, even if a lot of those other wide receivers aren't there, and you have to choose between an Amari Cooper and a Juju, I'm more liable to go in and zag and go to another position group.
Sure. Okay. So 6 spots higher is Breece Hall. He's probably not going to be available. Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis's ADP is 49. This is in 2022 redraft. That's too rich for my blood. I would prefer Juju, personally. Gabe did make my top 36, but I have Juju ranked higher. David Montgomery. J.K. Dobbins. Dave Montgomery's ADP is 52. Dobbins' ADP is 56, 1 spot ahead of Juju. Couple spots down is Josh Jacobs, and then even further down, almost 10 spots later, which remains the biggest head scratcher to me, is Antonio Gibson.
I mean, I think I would take all those running backs over Juju. I really think I would. I just there's something about Juju this year, and if I'm wrong, I think I'm just okay with being wrong. I'd rather have Antonio Gibson for sure. Would rather have Josh Jacobs, I think, than Juju Smith-Schuster. If I'm really, I like David Montgomery is. He's an ugly running back to have on your squad, but I think I would rather have David Montgomery.
He's a workhorse. He's a workhorse.
Yeah, so I respect where you have him in your rankings, and I think I would have him over Amari Cooper and a couple of those other guys, but that doesn't mean that I am picking him at that ranking.
Bullish about him. That's fine.
Right.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm willing to roll the dice on, just because of past production in healthy seasons where he was healthy and his quarterback was healthy.
And let's check out this chat real quick. We got a few questions in here.
Let's do that.
Yes, Scott.
How does this affect Mecole? Mecole's down there working his heart out. He's trying.
But I agree with your assessment on KC, Scott. They might be better off as a team, but for fantasy, it's kind of a messy. We're gonna have to see how it shakes out, and by the time it shakes out, I think I'm just gonna not have any Chiefs outside of Kelsey on my squad. But I am not. I don't know about Mecole. What do you think about Mecole? I just think he's an afterthought at this point.
I don't think anything of Mecole.
Right.
Sorry, Mecole.
He is an afterthought at this point. Mecole Hardman might be the new Marquise Goodwin.
Maybe.
Is Christian Watson a top 36 wide receiver? No.
Sorry, Hunter, but he did not crack the top 36.
I don't know if he's in. I don't know if he's top 48.
I don't know if he's top 50. He's a very interesting dynasty asset. I think the receivers to have in Green Bay this year are Lazard, and I might get grilled for this one, but I'm willing to take a swing on Sammy Watkins. The joke, the running joke, the mantra with him is he pops off week 1 and then disappears for 14 weeks. But catching passes from Aaron Rodgers when the depth chart at wide receiver is as unclear as it's ever been with Aaron Rodgers, I'll take a swing on Sammy because his ADP is like 185. There's by no means is that like any type of a risky investment. If it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. Give me Sammy. Give me Sammy Watkins catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. That's what I want. Christian Watson will mix in, but it feels like feel free to link me to anything that disproves what I'm about to say, but it feels like he's a raw prospect who needs some grooming and development. And I don't know if that translates to a legitimate fantasy impact year one. I'd almost rather take a swing on Amari Rodgers just because he's a second-year player, and he's, the jump from first year to second year often flies under the radar with guys who don't really contribute much in their first year.
Look,
I'll take a shot on Rodgers.
He's 6'4" and ran a 4.36. So that got people real hyped, and I think that got NFL teams overhyped on this guy because there was nothing pointed to him being a number one wide receiver in the NFL based off of his college production. I heard a lot of people in the pre-draft process say that he kind of plays like Deshaun Jackson light, and with that body type, you would expect him to be play like an alpha wide receiver, especially playing in the conference that he played in. I just there's just something about Christian Watson to where, I think if I drafted him in rookie drafts this year, I think I'm trying to sell. Now,
I'm not there yet.
But think about what you can get for him. He went from being maybe a late second round pick to a top 10 pick.
Yeah, a lot of people were like 108, 109 in one quarterback rookie drafts, maybe around the 111 or 12.
I'm sorry, Hunter. I'm sorry. I hope that I'm wrong, because if I have a second favorite team,
you were very interested in Watson early on.
Yeah, as a late second.
Or like a mid second round.
I was not in on him as a first round pick.
Yeah, he leapfrogged Pickens, he leapfrogged Dotson, he leapfrogged.
And nothing in his profile
White,
outside
James
of
Cook.
his combine measurables says that he deserves to be ahead of those guys. And for what it's worth, you know what I say about comps? Huge grain of salt. Player Profiler. If there's one comp that I'm going to listen to, it's the comp that's on Player Profiler, because they do the work. They really crunch the numbers. His best comparable is Denzel Mims.
I hope that doesn't turn out.
I hope that doesn't turn out. I really do hope that doesn't turn out. But he strikes me as the type of guy that if he is going to pan out, it's probably going to take the 4 years that Packers wide receivers usually do take to pan out. So you might be waiting on Christian Watson until Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Maybe not that long, but it could be like it takes one season. Or
I feel like he's Brian Edwards. I really do. I feel like he's the combine got us all hype. Look at his body type, crazy. He looks like a wide receiver one. Oh my goodness. And then he gets on the field and we're kind of left wanting for a few years. I hope I'm wrong, Hunter.
You're
I'm
crushing
wrong.
Hunter's hopes and dreams over here.
My second favorite team is the Green Bay Packers. Half of my family, extended family, lives in Wisconsin. The first football game I ever went to was a Green Bay game. I love Green Bay. But I gotta say, Christian Watson has me a little bit worried. A little bit worried. Yep. And Slim, who should you sign? You signing players to contracts? I like it. Mecole, MVS, Tim P, or Chark? Safe guy's Tim P. Chark might be the guy I would go for, though.
I would take the shot on. I mean, I would take the shot on MVS. Just as Patrick Mahomes' deep threat. Tim Patrick is like the safe, steady play, but we're pretty confident he's the wide receiver 3 in that offense at best. We like Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick's a good player. He's put up some solid stat lines over the past couple of years. But he's comfortably behind Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy on the depth chart. I know there was one beat reporter, I don't know if this was yesterday or the day before, that reported, I don't even remember who it was, that reported that Tim Patrick was the number 2 receiver and was running with the ones, and Jerry Jeudy was the wide receiver 3. I don't buy that for a million years. I just don't buy it. Jerry Jeudy was a high-end first-round pick. Where'd he go? Like 11th or 12th overall in the NFL in the first round of the draft. You're not giving up on that 3 years into his career when he has flashed talent.
He's 23 years old and is younger than a lot of incoming rookies. Yeah.
Like, I like Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick's a good receiver. Not trying to discount Tim Patrick. It's just his situation is he's about as comfortably a wide receiver 3 for his team as he can be. Chark has a wide open opportunity.
He's only 25 years old. That's another thing. I mean,
Chark's got a wide open opportunity.
I think this is a dynasty question here. So I'm going with the guy. If I have a choice between him and Tim Patrick, I'm going with the guy that's 3 years younger. And Scantling is 27 himself and will be 28 by the time the season starts. I think I'm just going with DJ Chark and hoping that, even if he doesn't fire this year, he's still going to be 26 next year on a new team. And, that situation could get better. Even that situation should get better. So, yeah, I think I'm going Chark here. And that's kind of like a how the mighty have fallen situation, too, because, I mean, were you ever thinking that you would see Chark on a waiver wire after the season that he had with Gardner Minshew?
No.
Yeah.
No. He had a fall from grace for sure. But he proved he can do it, even if just for one season or for a stretch of one season. I mean, he did prove he flashed his talent for sure. The opportunity is wide open. I think I give the slight edge to MVS just because he's going to connect on some deep bombs from Mahomes, and similar to Chark, not as wide open as Chark, but the depth chart, we just got done talking about it, is unsettled.
The problem with MVS is, we can say he's playing with Pat Mahomes, but he's been playing with Aaron Rodgers.
He's been playing with Aaron Rodgers.
So, okay, how much better do we really expect him to get? Chark has at least had a 1,000-yard season with, I think it was 7 or 8 touchdowns with Gardner Minshew. And he's 3 years younger. I just think, I think if you're really looking at it, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. It's Chark.
I don't have a problem with Chark being the guy. There's upside there.
There's
upside there.
Hunter's probably like, drop a dislike for the guys after they slandered Christian Watson. Sorry, Hunter, but thank you, Rojo. Appreciate it.
You could be happy, Hunter. You have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. There's not too much more you can ask for than that. He's going to put up another really strong season because that's what he does. And Rojo, appreciate it. Any and all likes if you are feeling inclined. We always appreciate.
Yes, sir. All right, let's get back to your rankings. Who do you got next after? Who do we just go over?
So I just had Juju as my wide receiver 28. Wide receiver 29. So this is where I have the question mark of wide receiver question marks, and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. We talked about him on a bit of a tangent on Tuesday. He was brought up, just like as in general, like how do we feel about him? I think I titled that part of the timestamp just like questions in the chat, if you want to like check that out, because we did talk a bit about Amon-Ra. The point is, last year, with a bare bones Detroit Lions offense, Amon-Ra was putting up wide receiver 1 weeks. Ridiculous stat lines. I'm paraphrasing, I think, but like 12 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown.
He didn't have less than 10 catches over the span of the last 6 games. He was 11, 3 straight games of 12 targets, and
caught all of them.
He pretty much he was awesome.
Like week 17, I think he had like 35 half PPR points. He was a He was a fantasy playoff monster that probably won people several championships. I understand the appeal that Amon-Ra has to the table. It's almost like the way that everybody's gushing over Gabe Davis right now for a 4-touchdown game. We should be doing the same thing with Amon-Ra, and I guess some people are. But Gabe Davis's ADP is higher than Amon-Ra's, I guess, because his ridiculous performance was more recent and in a much
people like the offense
were much
better.
Higher.
People like the offense better. That's what it is.
And the offense, right? That's right. Josh Allen or Jared Goff.
I think I think that's the deciding factor.
Nevertheless, Amon-Ra put up a stretch of bona fide wide receiver 1 weeks and now has an ADP that's settled in around 57, 58, 59 on Underdog Fantasy. So you can have him in the 5th round, maybe the 6th round. He might slide to the top of the 6th round. What was not in Detroit when Amon-Ra was doing all of this was DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, who is a backup but a good pass catcher at the running back position in his own right, and TJ Hawkinson, one of the best young tight ends in the game. All 3 are back and are healthy. On top of that, we just got done talking about DJ Chark, who they did bring in. And while we don't expect to see him right away, it probably will be until November. And it might even be a redshirt season for him in a worst case scenario. But they drafted Jamison Williams 12th overall. So as soon as 2023, this receiver room, this group of pass catchers is going to be very talented, but also kind of crowded. But after what Amon-Ra did, you can't possibly phase him out of the game plan just because other guys are coming back healthy. This man needs to be involved. He proved that.
We made that point in the members only stream yesterday. Jared Goff was performing like a back-end QB2. Not even that. He was performing like a QB3. Because a back-end QB2 is still the top 24 QB. He was performing like a QB3. And then everybody else got injured in the offense, and it was only Amon-Ra in there. And then he started performing like the quarterback 10 in points per game over the last 6 games. So Jared Goff has probably gone to Dan Carpenter and said, hey, man, just because these other guys are healthy doesn't mean we should be phasing Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the offense. He should still be a key cog for us. Now,
involve this guy.
Now, 11 targets, 12 targets a game, probably not. But 8 targets a game,
sure.
I'm fine with that.
Sure. No reason why you can't do that. So, with that said, I have Amon-Ra as a wide receiver 3 for the season. He certainly has wide receiver 2 upside. It's impossible to predict or project that he will be a bona fide wide receiver 1 for fantasy the way he was to end the season last year. And for some of those games, he was doing it with like Tim Boyle too, not even Goff. Goff missed time as well.
True.
So that's another thing. Amon-Ra was red hot for that stretch, and a backup quarterback might have been hyper targeting him a little bit. Not to take anything away from him, but it was
choice between him and Khalif Raymond and
Khalif
Josh
Raymond,
Reynolds.
yeah.
So
who was that guy that they brought up to? Craig Reynolds in the backfield.
Igwebuike and
yeah. So obviously you're going to hyper target Amon-Ra in that scenario. So it's impossible to project that he does that again. I think he's going to have his wide receiver 2 weeks, but there's enough here where while I am very intrigued by Amon-Ra like everybody else, I have him as my wide receiver 29, which is a wide receiver 3 for the season. With multiple, all things equal, every player healthy. That's not even factoring in some veterans that I have him over for a couple of different reasons. This is about as high as I can go on Amon-Ra. He will not crack my top 24 despite any potential reshuffling of names after any conversations happen. but I'm intrigued by him. And in the sixth, if you can get him in the 6th round, that's a fine roll of the dice by me.
I would, if I had rankings in front of me that were solidified, I would probably have him a little bit lower than you. I would probably have an Adam Thielen over him because I know what I'm getting in Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
And it is, in wide receiver points per game. He was wide receiver 11 and wide receiver 14. 14 last year, 11 the year before. And we know kind of what to expect from him as a floor. And we really don't know what to expect from Amon-Ra St. Brown as a floor. We've seen a ceiling.
Right.
We've seen an unattainable ceiling.
It's an unattainable ceiling.
But I think I would rather have a Adam Thielen than him.
He's my very next guy.
Yeah.
And I grappled with this one a little bit. But yeah, if DeAndre Hopkins isn't suspended, DeAndre Hopkins is way ahead of him. If Amari Cooper's likely quarterback situation,
I would rather have DeAndre Hopkins than Amon-Ra, straight up.
You mean even with the suspension?
Yeah, because if
that's fair.
Your point in your rankings, you're putting Chris Godwin up at wide receiver 25, despite the fact that he's going to be missing 6, 7, 8 games. Don't really have a clear-cut answer on how many games he's going to be missing. We know DeAndre Hopkins is healthy. We know he's only missing 6 games. And we know in fantasy points per game, he was wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5 the years before last year. And last year, he was the wide receiver 10 on the season before going out with injury himself. And he's only 30 right now. So I would rather have DeAndre Hopkins than Amon-Ra.
That's fair. That's fair. And I have Hopkins just down a bit. I did bake in, obviously, the 6-game suspension. But, yeah, I mean, once he comes back, it's going to be a no-brainer. So, and he's my wide receiver 32, Hopkins is. I probably have him a little too low just because of the 6-game suspension, which is significant. But
I'm an Amon-Ra fan, but I got to put Thielen and Hopkins over him.
That's fair. And those are my next 2 names, so I'm happy to talk about these vets. I've been a big Adam Thielen fan since I saw his ADP for the first time about a month ago or so. I mean, I like Thielen in general. He is older. He's 32, right? Or is he going to be 33 this year? I don't think he's going to be 33.
Thielen? He's 32. Will be 32.
He's 32. He's 31 now. He'll be 32 in August, so in about a month from now. So for the season, he will be 32 years of age. So he's getting up there, and he dealt with some, I believe, ankle injuries last year. So between some slightly advanced age and coming off of injury, his ADP is somewhere around like 71, 72. I'm hammering that all day long. He is the clear wide receiver 2 for his team, but the Vikings offense, I have big expectations for this year. I think they are transitioning to a 21st century offense. I think they're going to throw the ball significantly more than they have when Mike Zimmer was the head coach over the past 4 or 5 seasons. I think we're going to see a transition to a modern day offense, and that's going to include throwing the ball a lot more. Thielen is notorious for, you've brought this up before, John, maybe like a 65 catch, 800 yard season. Strong numbers, not spectacular, but where he feasts for you, for your fantasy team and for the Vikings, is he'll throw up 12 touchdowns for the season, 10 touchdowns for the season. Could top out at 13, 14 touchdowns for the season.
24 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons.
And he missed time last year. So the guy is a touchdown scoring monster. I'm pretty sure he just caught another one just now. Adam Thielen is a touchdown scoring machine. And that statistic is the most volatile, has the highest variance season to season for players in general. Adam Thielen is the type of player where you can almost kind of chalk in 10 touchdowns. He's their main red zone threat, evidenced by how they've used him in the red zone over the past couple of seasons, and the proof is in the pudding with all of the scores that he has. I understand the advanced age. I understand he's coming off the ankle injury, and anytime older players are coming off of injuries, you throw up a flag for concern. But we're talking about one of the most rock solid, steady receivers over the past few seasons who will give you, if healthy, a wide receiver 2 season with low end wide receiver 1 upside. I almost wish I put Adam Thielen in my top 24. I just couldn't quite figure out how to do it. And putting him at wide receiver 30 feels low.
He's been a top 15 wide receiver 2 out of the last 3 seasons. And the one season where he wasn't, we only played 10 games.
So there you go.
And even in those 10 games, 6 touchdowns.
He's like scoring a touchdown every other game, even in injury-plagued seasons. Like that's unbelievable and unbelievably consistent production. Draft Adam Thielen. If you're a contender in Dynasty, he should be a buy low because, again, his ADP on Underdog Fantasy, I'll confirm this for sure, but it's around like 71, 72. That is so cheap.
He's been a value for the past few seasons, and
that's so
you just gotta
cheap.
keep trusting in Adam Thielen. He is one of the safest bets at the wide receiver position, and there's no reason his ADP should be that low.
He is the player I have the most exposure to in all best ball leagues that I have done so far. His ADP officially is 71.4 right now, going behind players like we mentioned amon-ra, going behind Elijah Moore. Who's playing in a crowded and unproven Jets passing attack. Devontae Smith, who I like as a player, we like as a player, but questions about the Eagles' passing volume. Dalton Schultz, who I'm interested in, but is not the value this year the way he was last year. Drake London, rookie in a bad offense. Elijah Mitchell, like all these guys, I'd rather have Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
There's no question. So, yeah, he's my wide receiver 30.
I'd have, and again, I'd have him above amon-ra. I would.
I might need to flip that.
And I'd have the next guy that we're going to be talking about, DeAndre Hopkins, above him too, because I know 6 games, but still the fantasy points per game you're getting with him, the touchdown the quarterback that he's playing with, in Kyler Murray.
1.
The number 1 fantasy quarterback when he's healthy, because that is what he is. Don't let anybody fool you. Go look at the numbers. He is a better fantasy quarterback when absolutely healthy than even Josh Allen. It's just that Josh Allen is way more durable.
Yep.
But I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he's performed with terrible quarterbacks. He's got a good one right now. The only thing that's standing in his way in any year is health, and he's 2 years younger than Adam Thielen. And he will, yes, he's going to miss 6 games, but there's no injury concerns there coming off of what he was dealing with last year, outside of the fact that he is slightly older in age, or up there in age. So, he is a little bit more injury prone just due to that, but no residual injuries coming off of last season. He should be fully healthy by week 6 by week 7 when he comes back. So yeah, if you're buying a guy like Chris Godwin at wide receiver 25, then you got to be buying a guy like DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver 28. I think. For me.
Yes. Agreed. Current ADP of, I'm looking at the wrong thing because I was looking at Superflex rankings. His ADP is not that low. Well, in Superflex rankings, his ADP is around like 85.
That's wild too, dude.
That's Superflex rankings, but his ADP in one quarterback is 75.8. So
that's still wild. That's still crazy.
You can have him relatively cheap.
That's still crazy.
So you eat the 6-game suspension. All you got to do is just listen to us and draft well around him. And when he comes back, you're off to the races. Yeah. Hopkins comes in as my wide receiver 31. I baked in the suspension maybe a little too thick. I will be moving him up.
Yeah, the only reason, I mean, yeah, I almost don't have much to say here.
It's DeAndre friggin' Hopkins.
I mean, 2020, his fully healthy season with Kyler Murray, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns. He already had 8 touchdowns in 10 games when he went down last year, and he was on pace to go over 1,000 yards again. And again in 10 games, 8 touchdowns.
Balled out.
Yeah. The guy is great. He might not be getting you 20 fantasy points per game like he was in his prime with Deshaun Watson on the Texans, but I mean 17, 18 fantasy points per game in with the 80th pick in the draft
in the 6th round,
and all you have to do is stay afloat for 6 games before he gets dropped into your lineup and stays there for the rest of the season, dude. Yeah.
Lock it in.
Yeah.
Lock it in.
Yeah.
So there you go. Take a shot on DeAndre Hopkins.
Who you got next?
Who do I have next? So my wide receiver 32 is Elijah Moore.
Okay.
Who we have agreed is probably the Jets wide receiver 1. And I have to double check their depth chart, but I believe he is listed as their wide receiver 1.
You have to assume he is going into this year. We don't know what to expect from a rookie and
so
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson is listed as the team's wide receiver 3. It's Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and then Garrett Wilson. I'm not sure I necessarily expect that to stay the same. But again, I honor depth charts, even ones that are put out early, because that's literally how the team is operating in minicamp, OTAs, and going into training camp. So Garrett Wilson's being handed nothing, as most rookies are not. Elijah Moore is listed as the team's wide receiver 1, and we agree on that. Where I think we disagree is expectations for Zach Wilson. I'm a little more I'm not going overboard with my Zach Wilson projections, but I'm a little more bullish on him, I think, than you are. I think the Jets are a team whose arrow is trending up, maybe not pointing up, but trending up. The defense still is a big work in progress, but I think this offense has the makings of being very good. The offensive line, that's the question mark. Can Mekhi Becton shake the first round bust label? Can he do that? And then the names around him, can they play better as a unit than they have the past couple of seasons? That's going to be a big deal. Wilson has a big arm. He has mobility. But he didn't. He put some things on tape last year, but overall, it wasn't like the most inspiring season. Now, as a rookie on the Jets, rhetorical question: how high can your expectations possibly be? But it was decent, not great, maybe not even like above average. He showed off the ability to. He showed off the big arm, and he showed off some decent accuracy here and there. Still remains a work in progress. That being said, Elijah Moore, despite all that, did put up some monster numbers. I think one of those weeks might have been with Mike White. But he had an overall wide receiver 2 finish last year, or for at least 1 week. And then I think he got COVID, and that spiraled him out a little bit.
I think monster numbers is a little bit misleading here. Because, yes, he has 1 game with 8 receptions for 141 yards. But outside of that, he didn't
Monster
top 80. He didn't top 84 yards receiving in the rest of the games. He had a hot stretch.
Yeah, monster was the wrong word, but he had
a
good stretch.
I'm a fan, but monster is the wrong word.
Yeah, wrong word. Sorry, but he had a good stretch where he put up some strong performances.
No, he buoyed those numbers. He caught a lot of touchdowns through that span.
Yeah, he had
that's what you're looking at.
6 total scores.
In that game where he had 7 receptions for only 84 yards, there were 2 touchdowns in there. He had a game where he only caught 3 passes for 44 yards, 1 touchdown in there. So I'm not saying that to say cool off on Elijah Moore. I really like Elijah Moore. It's just, you're right. I don't know how to think about Zach Wilson. Now, Zach Wilson, looking at his advanced metrics here, his accuracy versus man coverage was the best in the league, which I was not expecting to see when looking at his advanced metrics.
No.
He was 3rd in dropped passes. He had 41 dropped passes by his wide receivers, which kind of makes sense when you're thinking about the fact that he was working with a Braxton Berrios and a rookie in Elijah Moore. No disrespect,
Corey
but
Davis
a rookie
was
in
hurt.
Elijah Moore. Corey Davis was hurt. Jamison Crowder was injured for a lot of the year last year himself. Couldn't rely on Denzel Mims. They were going the not Kellen. Who's?
Oh! I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Shoot. He came from Jacksonville.
Yeah. His name starts with a K.
It does. It's gonna bother me now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you get my point. Jeff Smith was out there for a lot of the year.
That's
right. So you got to take a lot of Wilson's struggles. You got to look at it through that lens. His supporting cast was lacking, to say the least. But he did some surprising things based off of these numbers that are here in front of me. Was not expecting him to be Keelan Cole. There you go, Hunter. Thank you.
Keelan Cole.
Yes.
There it is.
I was going to say Kellen Moore, and I know that's wrong. He's a quarterback.
I was like, I think it's like Kendall Tompkins. I was like, nah, he played in like the 80s.
Kendrick Lamar.
So, Keelan Cole. There we go. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar. Catching passes from Zach Wilson. That's how they were really thin last year. And yeah, so he was playing with some bare bones for stretches of the season last year is the point.
But all in all, I mean, this isn't a Zach Wilson point. It's an Elijah Moore point. I don't hate that ranking. I like Elijah Moore.
I think he's going to be a good player. I think he's going to be the focal point of an ascending Jets offense. And with more seasoning under his belt, year 2, some continuity for the Jets now, right? There's no coaching overhaul. Obviously, Robert Saleh's back. His coaching staff is back. Mike LaFleur is still the offensive coordinator for them. And for what it's worth, it's a very, very small sample size, but he got 5 handoffs last year as well and scored a touchdown on one of those. So Mike LaFleur and Robert Saleh come from the San Francisco coaching tree. I mean, they love running misdirection and all that, throw their wide receivers in the backfield in San Francisco. Could we see Elijah Moore do a little bit more of that this year? No pun intended. I am intrigued by that potential and possibility because he has a dynamic skill set. Only caught 43 catches last year on 77 targets. I expect both of those numbers to climb. Even if he only matches his total touchdown output from last year, I mean, if he puts up a 65, 70 catch, 1,000-yard season, he's going to be a wide receiver 2 for the year.
Now, I do have him in my the rankings that I'm just kind of making on the fly here because, again, I do not have solidified rankings here in front of me.
That's all right. I got you covered.
Gabe Davis is probably ahead of him for me. Allen Lazard is probably ahead of him for me just because when you're looking at Elijah Moore, it's not that I don't like the talent. Love the talent. Love him in Dynasty. But if you're looking at this season and what he did when he was producing wide receiver 1 numbers last year, I think a lot of the things that you said about an amon-ra St. Brown, you can say about an Elijah Moore. And basically the offense really not having anybody else to go to with Jamison Crowder being out, Corey Davis being out, not being able to trust Denzel Mims, them not having a tight end last year. Michael Carter being in and out of the lineup, and sometimes them using Ty Johnson more at running back. It's not that I don't like Elijah Moore. He's got a lot more competition in this offense now than he did last year during that stretch. And Allen Lazard, wide receiver 1, projected wide receiver 1 for Aaron Rodgers. I think just based off of that, you got to put him ahead of the projected wide receiver 1 for Zach Wilson with more competition in the offense from a passing game perspective. You got to put Allen Lazard ahead of him, and I think I would rather have Gabe Davis than him, because I know we're talking about Gabe Davis one game, but the number 2 role on a Josh Allen-led team, to me, I think I like that more than I like the ambiguous role that Elijah Moore will occupy for the entire season with Zach Wilson, because we're not sure if Garrett Wilson's going to come in and look like a better wide receiver. We're not sure if Corey Davis is going to come in and command more targets based off of the money that they're paying him. There's a lot of different factors here with the Jets that have me a little bit more worried about Elijah Moore's 2022 than Gabe Davis. I think his role, it's a little bit more solidified to the point where you can really point to him and say, I kind of know what I should be expecting from the number 2 target for Josh Allen, versus we're not really sure where Elijah Moore fits in. Should be a top 2 target for this team for the entire season, but there's just a few more moving pieces, and the quarterback isn't quite solidified there. So for me,
sure,
I have Allen Lazard ahead of him, and then I probably have Gabe Davis ahead of him, and then that's where I put Elijah Moore.
Okay, fair enough. There are enough questions. I do like the talent. Allen Lazard,
love the talent. Yep.
Allen Lazard was difficult for me to figure out. He will be we expect him to be Aaron Rodgers' number 1 target this year. The only wide receiver on this offense with any type of continuity with him whatsoever. Aaron Rodgers has talked Lazard up this offseason, which is always good. He figures, I think Lazard might be a PPR monster this year.
And we already know he's a red zone monster.
Yeah, in the limited opportunities,
potential to be a red zone monster.
In the limited opportunities, he's put up big red zone numbers. So
8 touchdowns on only 60 targets on only 40 receptions.
Yeah,
he almost has a 1 in 4
silly
chance of scoring a touchdown, as it was last season, and that was with Devontae Adams in there catching. Wasn't it 18 touchdowns last year?
Did he catch 18 last year? Sounds about. I thought it was the year before, but
it might have been the year before. But
certainly
18,
capable.
13 to 18, something in there.
Yeah.
My point is, Allen Lazard, I believe, has a higher fantasy ceiling and a more solidified workload coming into the year.
Allen Lazard's
with a better
ADP,
quarterback.
Allen Lazard's ADP on Underdog Fantasy is 89.7.
And so what's Elijah Moore's?
66.5.
Yeah, would rather have Allen Lazard at his
You'd
ADP
take the
than
shot
Elijah
on Lazard.
Moore's.
I would take. So your strategy here is take Antonio Gibson there and then go get Lazard 20 picks later.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yep. Joey knows best balls, people. Giving you the goods. I do like Lazard. I could see myself pushing somebody like Amari Cooper out of my top 36 to squeeze an Allen Lazard in, just because Amari Cooper is a talented player, but that Cleveland situation reeks of bad vibes, especially if Watson is suspended for the season, which at this point almost feels like a foregone conclusion. We don't know yet for sure. I do have Amari Cooper here as my wide receiver 33 tentatively, because he is, we've seen him put up. Have we seen a wide receiver 1 finish from him before? We've seen
Amari Cooper?
Wide receiver. Yeah.
In points per game, we have yet to see a wide receiver 1 finish from him. I do not know in total end of the season rankings if that
he's
is
been a
the
steady
case.
wide receiver 2. He has had wide receiver 1 on slate busting games, but not for the course of an entire season. That being said, he is a talented player. He comes into what was looking like a very promising situation.
He was wide receiver 7 in 2020 or 2019.
Okay, so 3 years ago. Was that his first season with the Cowboys?
I believe so, yes.
When he was traded to the Cowboys from the Raiders. Yeah.
Yep.
He popped off when he got there. That would make sense. Rock solid wide receiver 2 for fantasy purposes for the course of his career with wide receiver 1 upside. Now is, though, a different story. He goes to Cleveland. It was looking great catching passes from Deshaun Watson. We no longer expect that to be the case for the 2022 season. Cooper is still talented and should command the most targets in that offense. But it might be an offense that is headed by Jacoby Brissett and not Deshaun Watson or even Baker Mayfield for that matter.
And we've seen wide receivers in that number 1 wide receivers in that offense perennially fail to reach the lofty heights that we project them to, even with a Baker Mayfield and Jacoby Brissett isn't as good as even Baker Mayfield last year.
So obviously Deshaun Watson presents a colossal upgrade over both of those guys, but now we are operating as if he will not be playing in 2022. We could still be surprised. There has been no decision made by the NFL yet, which is for now, I will tentatively put Amari Cooper in as wide receiver 33. If and when the suspension drops, and it is a lengthy one, Cooper likely drops out of the top 36 for me. I can easily put a guy like Lazard in over ahead of him. The arrow is as I say this and put Amari Cooper, I guess out of previous respect for what he's done recently in the top 36, as I say this, the arrow is pointing down. The vibes on the type of season that he's going to be able to have with Jacoby Brissett don't feel good. And if and when Watson gets suspended, I have to imagine the Browns season ends before it begins, because the vibes from the roster and from the players, they're going to obviously go into the season thinking like, well, it's still our season. It's still our team that we can play for. We can play for the guys in this locker room. But their I'm no disrespect, but to Jacoby Brissett, but he's a backup quarterback. The odds are against you at that point. The defense is good. The offensive line is strong. The run game is strong. They didn't make the playoffs last year. So, I mean, the vibes are not going to be good, I feel, in Cleveland if and when the Deshaun Watson suspension happens. For now, out of respect for what Amari Cooper has done, I have him at wide receiver 33. Alan Lazard will leapfrog him definitively if and when we know that Watson will not play in 2022.
Yeah.
So for now, Cooper's there. Lazard could easily overtake him. That's all I have to say about Amari Cooper. I don't know if you had anything else to add there. It's a gross situation trending down, but that's out of his control.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 34. This is where I have Devontae Smith. I feel like he might be. I know you are not. You have concerns about the Eagles' passing attack this year.
Yeah, again, this is not a talent thing for me. I think Devonta Smith is very talented, and I think lots of times we have seen the number 2 wide receiver benefits by having a great number 1 on the opposite side of the field to draw coverage away from. We brought it up when we were talking about Juju Smith-Schuster earlier in his career. So I think that does play into Devonta Smith long-term, considering A.J. Brown is there long-term.
Uh-huh.
But the Jalen Hurts situation does have me a little bit worried. Yeah, for this season specifically, not for his future.
Okay. So the advanced metrics don't completely all jump out at you off the page. But some of them are solid. Like an air yard share of almost 40%. Again, he was the, AJ Brown wasn't there last year. So that
and his target competition was like Quez Watkins
and Jalen Reagor. Yeah. And Dallas Goedert. But so there are some advanced metrics here that don't necessarily jump off the page. But he still finished with 100 targets. I think he can do that again, even with AJ Brown in the fold. And maybe this is just kind of on like a gut instinct and not necessarily off of any raw data. I just expect the Eagles to try to throw the ball more than they did in 2021 because they have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. Yes, their bread and butter is likely still going to be the run game and Jalen Hurts might be spearheading that once again. But Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, this is a solid, maybe not top heavy or spectacular, but it's a pretty deep backfield with some talent in it. And a great offensive line. The Eagles have what we just got done talking about a little while ago, how the Bears have a terrible offensive line. The Eagles have one of the best. The Eagles offensive line is great. And that bodes well for the run game. What we don't know is, will Jalen Hurts take that next step as a passer? And that could come at the expense of Devontae Smith's production. Still finished with 64 catches last year. He didn't quite get 1,000 receiving yards. He had 916 and 5 catches. He was the wide receiver 36 in fantasy points per game. So he was wide receiver 36 in points per game. I have him as the wide receiver 34 this year. Obviously, in comes AJ Brown. Does Jalen Hurts take that next step as a passer? Remains to be seen. You have questions about this passing offense. I'm sure a lot of people do, and I'm not sitting here saying that I don't. But I think I have Smith slotted in here fairly decently. I'm not aggressively targeting him in drafts. I'm not fading him either. It's kind of like if he falls into my lap type of situation, then sure, because I like the talent. And we did talk about this when we were talking about quarterbacks at some point. This was maybe a month ago or so, but Jalen Hurts had 5 or 6 passing scores called back last year on penalties. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the extra numbers, the extra stats, they were already there. They just didn't count because of forces out of Hurts's control. So I got Devontae Smith as a wide receiver 34, low-end wide receiver 3 for the season, with some question marks about his situation, but I do like the talent.
No, I like the talent too. The talent, again, just like with the Elijah Moore, is not in question for me. Just like with Jalen Waddle, with these rankings, it's not in question for me. It's the situation that he's in, specifically in 2022, because these are seasonal rankings for this year. And if there were Dynasty rankings, he would be a whole lot higher in my rankings.
He's over numerous players.
Yeah.
But this is 2022 redraft.
Yep. So for me, I don't know if he cracks my top. I think having Allen Lazard in there just pushes him out. It would be a decision for me between Amari Cooper and Devonta Smith, and I think I would have to have Amari Cooper in there just because if we're gonna have wide receivers with quarterback question marks, and I do like Jalen Hurts even from a passer's perspective more than I like Jacoby Brissett. And that's not real close for me either. I think I want the number 1 wide receiver there more than the number 2 wide receiver on a run-first team with quarterback concerns, especially when taking into account the track record. While Amari Cooper is not usually a wide receiver 1, he is usually a wide receiver 2.
Yep.
So I do have to give the edge to the vet there. But I do really like Devonta Smith. I liked what he did last year, and I think there's a chance that he could, once they get a quarterback in there who can really throw the ball and really wants to air it out, I think he could be special even with A.J. Brown on the other side.
Okay. And I, we'll there's a lot that remains to be seen with Jalen Hurts as a passer.
He reminds me of kind of like a Marvin Jones type. I don't know if he
Davante?
What he will be for the Eagles over the next few years. I think he's going to be a Marvin Jones type, a guy that is going to be shoehorned into the number 2 role based off of A.J. Brown being there. But when A.J. Brown goes down, he can step in and play like the wide receiver 1, and the offense won't skip a beat. And he will be probably underrated just because he's the number 2 in that offense moving forward, but will still perform like a very good fantasy asset for you. So I'm kind of putting him in that range. I don't know if he's ever going to be a true 1, but I think he can be the pseudo 1/2 and have some very big boom weeks because he is a speedy wide receiver with some size and has shown the ability to break off big plays downfield and score long touchdowns. So I really like Devonta Smith. A young Marvin Jones isn't a bad comp. That isn't a negative comp.
No, not at all. Marvin Jones has been a very solid player for his career. I guess the last thing I'll say about Devonta Smith, and maybe this works for A.J. Brown as well, is you brought this up. I don't remember what the specific topic was, but the Eagles have a very favorable schedule to start the season.
Oh, yeah.
So that's that type of intangible that I'm not necessarily seeking out, but when I hear about it, it makes me more interested because I like the opportunity to find guys that can get off to strong starts, build that good momentum early, set the vibe, set a positive tone early on, and then go from there. So that's certainly an intangible that I am in favor of.
Their schedule here is the Lions, the Vikings, the Commanders, the Jags, the Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Texans, the Commanders. You got some tougher matchups in there.
Sure, you always do.
The Vikings might give you a little trouble. The Cardinals might give you a little trouble.
Cardinals on the road, that's a loss, but they'll be throwing the ball in that game.
Right, but any of those other games, they have a good chance to win. The only thing is with the team that predicates themselves on being a rushing first team, if they're up in games, they're probably not going to be a team that's going to keep airing it out. So that gives me a little bit of pause with connecting a easier beginning schedule with Devonta Smith blowing up. But the stranger things have happened. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. His ADP is 68.1 on Underdog Fantasy. He's going one spot as far as wide receivers. He's going one spot ahead of Drake London. I'd rather have Devonta Smith. He's going a couple spots ahead of Adam Thielen. I admittedly prefer Thielen. He's going about 7 spots ahead of DeAndre Hopkins. I would prefer DeAndre Hopkins. Here's the interesting conversation, and a guy who did not make my top 36 because now the vibes are like, I don't know what to do with you. He is going about 6 or 7 spots ahead of Michael Thomas. That is, I think, where the conversation begins. All things equal, it's not close. Michael Thomas is
I think I'd rather have Devonta Smith because I really don't know. I know we've talked about Chris Godwin and he's going to be coming back and missing some games, and DeAndre Hopkins missing games but coming back. Michael Thomas just he gives me AB vibes to where I don't know what this guy's gonna do. I don't know what this guy's gonna do. I don't know if this guy's just gonna go off and just not play because he's being a diva.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, based off of talent, again, he should be ranked a lot higher. If he was
right,
if we knew he was playing all 17 games, he would be ranked a lot higher than this. Would probably be in our top 24. He wouldn't be in a top 36 conversation. Definitely. But because of the question marks surrounding him, with a guy like him, I think I would rather have the guy I know who's playing in Devonta Smith than the guy who might just go AWOL for an entire season. And with those injuries that he has racked up, there is a question as to whether or not he will be as effective as he was earlier and even midway in through his career now. So Michael Thomas does not make my top 36.
He doesn't make mine either.
He's probably 38.
Yeah, he's probably right around there because at that point it's like, all right, let me take the swing. But we have to leave that on the table for now. So Smith at wide receiver 34 for me. Just checking this chat really quick. What's going on, P. Diddy? Alex fired up a best ball. Swift went 101. Holy hell. Well, congratulations on grabbing Jonathan Taylor.
You got a Lions fan at 101.
Yeah, apparently. Look, I like Swift as much as the next guy, but there's no way.
Getting Jonathan Taylor at 103 is a steal no matter how you cut it. So good job there,
that's
man.
a nice little consolation prize, Alex. Or you could have taken Justin Jefferson too. I don't care. Well, take Jonathan Taylor. Take Taylor. P. Diddy, if you're quarterback needy in a super flex league, or two quarterbacks, should I take Pickett because of the consensus, or trade back a couple spots and overdraft Willis, who you do like? So this is kind of a loaded question because it's twofold. At the end of the day, we'll say this all the time, draft players who you want on your team. Like, draft players who you want to root for, who you like. You also got to believe in them a little bit, but you probably like them because you believe in them. Draft players who you want.
There's no guarantee that Pickett is the starter this year. It looks like it
I think Trubisky's going to be the week one starter, yeah.
Right, so if you're going to be taking a shot there at the pick that you are at on a quarterback who is going to miss the first year of his career, and we're not saying Pickett's going to miss the full first year, but he's at least going to be starting the year on the bench, and we don't know how that's going to go. Take the player you like. Take the player with the most technical upside in Willis. Yeah, I don't hate that.
Might have a chip on his shoulder after getting completely disrespected, falling to the third round. Now maybe that's just a flat out talent. By that
time, Treylon Burks might be in shape.
He may be ready for a mini camp by that time
in 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to try his hardest. Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, if you are not crazy about Pickett, don't do it just to do it. See if you can acquire that extra asset to move back and pick up a guy who is probably further away from playing. Willis is further away from playing than Pickett is. But if you like Willis, if you believe in Willis, and if you feel like you can move back from where you are now, pick up a young quarterback in Willis who should get a shot at some point, somehow, somewhere, while, and acquiring an additional asset. I don't know if that's like a 2023 third, or depending on how far you have to fall or whatever, but a late pick or another pick is another pick. And at the end of the day, both of these guys are dart throws to begin with. Of course, Pickett's got the first-round draft capital, but if Mitchell Trubisky's going to start week one, that seems to be the vibe, then there's question marks about the long term for both of these guys. So take the dude who you want. Take the guy who you do like. Yeah. While still getting something else.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. This isn't like necessarily a vote of confidence for Willis, because after the free fall that he had, it's fair to question, like, okay, now what?
Yeah, that doesn't really even preclude the team from going out and drafting another quarterback next season.
Right, if Tennessee bottoms out.
One thing you can say about Pickett is he is most likely going to be the starter in 2023. We technically can't even say that for Willis as it stands right now. So there is that. But at the end of the day, you want to have fun in your dynasty leagues, go and get the players that you like. At the end of the day, you want to have fun.
Could you parlay that argument into a 2023 second round pick, depending on what could you say, like, I'll give you this pick to take Pickett for the pick that you need to slide back to take Willis, and pick up a second round pick next year? And you can use that as leverage. Like, oh, Pickett's a first-round pick. He's going to start. Like, I'm taking a huge risk taking Willis, P. Diddy. Could that be your talking point to get a good 2023 asset out of this deal? I would shoot for that.
And as far as who's better for Najee, Pickett or Trubisky, I would rather have Pickett than Mitchie Biscuits. Yes.
Pickett, because Trubisky's going to scramble and they're going to run more RPOs and he's going to run around and vulture. Trubisky can touchdown vulture. We've seen him do it before. Pickett's also mobile. Pickett is also mobile and can run. He did run in college.
There aren't too many quarterbacks who can't run, but he's not a running quarterback, and Trubisky is. So the answer is not really close for me. I would rather have, if I'm Najee, Pickett.
Yeah, you'd rather have Pickett. And Pickett as a young quarterback is more likely to be throwing those dump offs, those easy passes to the running back.
Yeah.
If you're a Najee person, you are rooting for Pickett to take that job eventually.
So who's the last guys that you have in your rankings?
Yeah, we can bring this home. I know John's had a long week, so we'll
and it's weird. I have homework to do. This new job has given me homework to do, and I have to turn it in tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. Bro,
wow.
I feel like I'm back in elementary school.
Or you're gonna get a bad grade. Okay.
Yeah, I know. The bad grade
in the real world is
fired.
Yeah, a bad grade in elementary school is you get a call from your parents. A bad grade when you're in your 30s is you lose your job. So, Yes, we want to make sure that he has enough time to do his homework. So we're probably not going to go as late tonight. Might be wrapping this up at the top of the hour. So we appreciate you guys as always.
Yes, sir.
Coming in and hanging out with us. But I'm gonna bring it home with my wide receivers 35 and 36 here, and then it might be time for the closing remarks a little earlier than we've usually been going. But Christian Kirk is my wide receiver 35.
Yes.
And he's another guy I kind of wish I could move a little bit higher, but I can't because we saw so little from Jacksonville last year.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence did not have a good season. And I will be fair. I would probably attribute 90% of that to the failure that was the Urban Meyer hiring and all of the on-field distractions that were caused just by him being there. You can have your season spiral out because of forces that have nothing to do with play on the field. The Jags were a prime example of that last year. A toxic environment started from the head coach, and it snowballed all season long until they finally had no choice but to fire him before the season even ended. Nevertheless, Trevor Lawrence had a bad season last year. So it's hard to put a guy like Kirk higher than wide receiver 35. That being said, we expect a bounce back for this Jags offense in a multitude of ways this year. There's more stability with the head coach, with Doug Peterson, a boring hire, but I almost feel like when it's a boring hire after the season that you had, it's like you welcome that. That's a breath of fresh air, no question.
I'll take Dougie P over.
Not even a question. Little bit like he's a player's coach. That was the rapport that he built when he was in Philly. The team liked him. The team liked playing for a guy like Doug. I have to imagine that resonates with a young team like Jacksonville as well.
Just out of curiosity, what were the reasons why you were campaigning to get him out of Philly? Because I know you and
I wasn't.
You were.
I don't remember that.
You were. Every Philadelphia Eagles fan was happy when Doug P left. It's almost a fact, bro.
I don't remember that. I was attributing it to Wentz. I was done with Wentz.
Okay.
Wentz just made everything look really bad. I don't recall calling for Dougie P's head. Maybe I wasn't calling for him to stay, but I was certainly not calling for his firing 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. Anyway. Christian Kirk comes in, gets top 10 money at the position. They have no choice after the contract that they doled out to feature him as much as they possibly can. Kirk is not a top 10 receiver in the league, but he's, factoring in Marvin Jones' advanced age at this point, he's going to be 33, I think, if he's not already. Christian Kirk is the most talented player in this wide receiver room, and that includes the tight ends as well. I have to imagine that they get back to basics down in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence maybe keeps it a little bit more simple this year, utilizes his slot receiver, utilizes his pass-catching running back, short, bang throws. Christian Kirk is made for that as a slot. And Kirk can go deep as well. We saw that. But with an ADP of around 85, that's an ADP of 85 for his team's wide receiver 1 on an offense that we expect to go up this year with a blue chip prospect still at quarterback. I don't see why he can't catch 100 balls.
I don't either.
That's it. I don't know. I don't see a reason why he can't get 100 catches. Kirk. He should be ultra featured in this offense after the contract that they gave him. And outside of Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault has seemingly lost his job. DJ Chark is gone. They brought in Zay Jones for some reason. And then they also brought in Evan Ingram, and they have Dan Arnold. Did I miss anybody in the wide receiver room?
I don't think so. Well, Jamal Agnew,
who's a converted cornerback, who, hey, he put some great stuff on tape last year, but I don't think they are planning to rely on Jamal Agnew as a focal point of the offense moving forward. I mean, at this, he should probably be featured, or he should probably have a role in some way, shape, or form, but I don't think you can necessarily rely on that. And didn't he tear his ACL?
Yes,
he did. Then he tore his ACL. So again, there's going to be some and it was in the middle of the season, so there's going to be some rehab there that's going to be required. Regardless, I don't have too much else here. It's not a win and a prayer, but anything more than just we still believe in Trevor Lawrence as a long-term quarterback, and this is his top weapon. Christian Kirk is his top weapon outside of Travis Etienne. He should come through with volume.
Yeah, and I mean, Christian
maybe
Kirk
90
really
catches, but still
hadn't fired through his first 3 years in the league, and it really took until year 4 for him to really come into his own. But he's being paid like a top 10 wide receiver in the league. So sometimes you just got to follow the money, even in fantasy.
That's all I got for Christian Kirk. And then my wide receiver 36 is Gabe Davis. So rounding it out, love my wide receiver 3s. I do have Gabe in here. Look, I love Gabe. I'm a big fan of Gabe Davis.
Babe Davis?
Bay Davis, yeah. Here's the thing. His ADP is on Underdog Fantasy right now, one quarterback, is 49.
But we're talking about rankings. We're not talking about ADP-based value.
So my point was going to be that I don't think I'm going to have too many Gabe Davis shares this year.
Fair.
Simply because, look, the opportunity is right in front of him. And he's attached to one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Should be a shoo-in for really strong production. It just hasn't happened yet for a player that is being drafted in the top 50. The target share has never been more than about 12 or 13%. And while I expect that to go up this year, with all of the names that we just listed who have done it, I have a hard time moving Gabe higher in my rankings. Could he go ahead of guys like Amari Cooper and maybe even say an Amon-Ra or an Elijah Moore? Yeah, maybe. Obviously, he's got the situation. I have a hard time. I have a hard time seeing that I have a lot of shares of him this year, which is, I guess, kind of why I have him ranked where I do. He's a good player. I expect him to turn in strong wide receiver 2 weeks during the season. I just don't know how much consistency we'll see from Gabe, which we haven't seen to this point yet. But I do like the player. Like, it's just his ADP is a little outrageous for me.
What I will say about Gabe Davis is he's going to be taking not only, I mean, he's taken Emmanuel Sanders' role in that offense this year. And Emmanuel Sanders had 1,077 air yards despite being phased out pretty much, I want to say by week 10, week 12. It was early in the season that he was getting all those air yards. And even that, having that many air yards, he had more air yards on the year than Deebo Samuel, than Jalen Waddle, than Chris Godwin, than Adam Thielen. So I kind of think, I'm not going to say his ADP is warranted, but I absolutely understand the hype. Because you can kind of smash what Gabe Davis did last year and what Emmanuel Sanders' workload was last year together, and that's what you can expect from Gabe Davis from a workload perspective this year. Now, some of that work is going to go to Khalil Shakir. But again, Khalil Shakir, 5th-round pick. So how much of that work is really going to go to Khalil Shakir? We really can't say, especially for a team that is ready to win right now and has developed Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis was 18th in the league in target separation, which is good for a bigger wide receiver. Some of these other advanced metrics in here bode well for him too. 48th in air yards last year. 64th in targets last year. 14th in red zone targets. He was a red zone monster for the Bills last year. Let's see some more advanced metrics that point to him being good this year. He wasn't one of those route win rate types, but we all know what a good quarterback can do for you. Even if you're not one of the best wide receivers in the league, a good quarterback can sometimes make you look like it. He has the 10th best contested catch rate in the league. On the 12 targets that they were counting, he had a 58.3% contested catch rate, 10th in the league. If he gets more targets like that, I mean, he's going to come down with them for sure. Average target distance, ADOT, 8th in the league. So he's getting targeted down the field. So he is a guy that, again, is going to rack up those air yards once he gets a full-time role in this offense. And Emmanuel Sanders, despite only playing in 14 games, got 72 targets, had 4 touchdowns, 626 yards. And Gabe Davis himself had 549. So smash those together, you got an 1,000-yard season on your hands. Again, I don't expect Gabe Davis to get to really even have an 1,000-yard season. I think his season could look a lot more like a Adam Thielen season than a 1,200-yard season with 6 touchdowns. I think he could get around 950 yards on the year, but end up with 14 touchdowns because he is a touchdown monster. They don't have any other huge targets in that offense that are going to be really effective in the red zone. I mean, it's Stephon Diggs, who's a great wide receiver in his own right. Not really that type of wide receiver that you primarily look for in the red zone. Gabe Davis kind of is. Dawson Knox isn't the biggest tight end target in the league. And to your point, right, he's not a target hog. He is a red zone monster, but it's not enough to make me shy away from Gabe Davis. I like him a lot. Maybe not at that ADP. That ADP might be a little bit strong, even
the ADP
for me.
Scares me
as a Bills fan who loves Gabe.
Yeah,
he's not going to get 200 yards a game and 4 touchdowns. He's just not. But
that playoff game,
playing opposite Stephon Diggs again, he's He's gonna be dealing with lesser coverage. He's gonna be wide open lots of times. Not only is he playing opposite Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs, but he's playing with the quarterback who's a threat to rush the ball. So number one target, the opposing defense has to contend with. They also have to contend with the fact that they have to put a spy on Josh Allen for when he does run the ball and pick up those chunk plays on the ground. Mm-hmm. All that to say, Gabe Davis should be in single coverage a lot, and I trust a wide receiver who is Josh Allen's number 2 wide receiver getting single coverage all day long. That's how he did rack up 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's because he was in single coverage all game that game.
He made him look silly.
Yeah.
And he made him look silly in that game.
Throughout last year, I think he was still working on a lot of his timing with Josh Allen because he wasn't a full-time player in his first year. I think they were still working on a lot of those timing aspects in the game in the game and
throughout the season.
Right, that grew as the season went on. You really look after week 13, after week 13, he really just started to pick it up. If you look at the game logs, he really started to pick it up with usage in this offense. A lot of that is, Emmanuel Sanders getting phased out. He's getting phased in. But I like Gabe Davis. Got him in
I like the player.
All of my Dynasty leagues. In Dynasty, he's absolutely a target for me. Season long, ADP is too rich for even me.
The ADP is that's a hard pill to swallow.
But I do like Gabe Davis, and he is ranked inside my top 36. What do I think about Isaiah McKenzie as a Bills fan?
Love Isaiah McKenzie.
His
real
ADP
good. Is free.
It's just, and I thought he was going to take that Cole Beasley role, but Jamison Crowder being there means that it's probably never going to happen for for Isaiah McKenzie. McKenzie is already, I think, 27 years old. So, and Crowder is there for 2 seasons on a cost-controlled contract. So, I think that Isaiah McKenzie is a good storyline, a very good NFL player, not necessarily one that you want on your fantasy teams. But if Jamison Crowder went down, he could be a wide receiver.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, he's picked up some hamstring strains and sprains and pulls, and some calf strains, multiple calf strains and hamstring strains dating back to 2020. And again, we never project or chart out injuries, but the flip side to that is Crowder has had some leg injuries and soft tissue injuries multiple times over the past 3 years. So if he is forced from the lineup, which he's 29 years old, these are the type of injuries can be reoccurring. They're not guaranteed to be. But if he is forced from the lineup, Isaiah McKenzie offers some Swiss Army knife upside.
In the one game he
could be pretty tantalizing.
In the one game he got as mostly a full-time starter for the team last year, 12 targets, 11 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Pretty damn good. So you got to keep an eye on him if and when Jamison Crowder goes down in your season-long leagues. And he's not a terrible person to have if you have 30-man rosters or 30-man benches or something like that, where you can just stash him in the eventuality that does happen, because he's a good bet to get a lot of usage, because Josh Allen likes to air it out. He also likes to dump it off. He just likes to pass the ball. And that offense just is predicated on passing the ball. There were stretches last year where they just didn't run. So, yeah, I like Isaiah McKenzie more in as an NFL player than I do a fantasy player. But there are situations in which he could be very useful for your squad.
Just got a breaking news update from Sleeper. Pro Football Talk. This is from Pro Football Talk. Saints running back Alvin Kamara is bracing for a suspension of at least 6 weeks.
Ooh, okay.
Now there's We'll see. We will. There's still some legal, like, this is just a report from PFT. He's been wrong before, but Kamara faces felony battery charges with a hearing set for, I believe, the beginning of August. So we will find that out probably within the next several weeks, maybe about a month from now. But Alvin Kamara, according to a league source, Kamara himself is bracing for a suspension. So grab Abram Smith where you can.
Yeah.
Grab Abram Smith where you can.
Don't disagree.
So,
and I mean, is Mark Ingram a bad flyer now? A late?
No, I mean, if you can get an 18th round pick, he's 33 years old, but like for an 18th rounder, that's zero risk. Don't do a zero RB strategy and draft him as your RB4. But yeah, Mark Ingram is absolutely viable. With what is likely, whether the Saints want to do it or not, giving him an increased workload.
And we can get a video out on this situation going more in depth over the next few days.
Yeah, I don't want to react to this just yet because it's not official. It's just a league source saying he's expecting it. But this does feel like a good opportunity to talk a little bit about Abram Smith. So I'll see about putting something together for that.
For Abram Smith specifically. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'll see about putting something together for that for everybody.
But word, you guys, thank you for tuning into the stream. Yep. Nick, do you want to do a quick run through your top your wide receiver 3 rankings this year before we shut it down?
Yep, and I'll make sure to timestamp this live stream if anybody's coming in later happens to see this portion of the stream. But in order, with potential tinkering, wide receivers 25 to 36 for the 2022 season: Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton, Darnell Mooney, Juju Smith-Schuster, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins. I'm moving both of those up a couple spots. Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, Devontae Smith, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis. Tentatively, Alan Lazard will break in some way, shape, or form. That could come as far as booting out Amari Cooper, based on what happens with Deshaun Watson. Maybe even like a Devontae Smith because of the concerns around the Eagles' passing volume this year. Alan Lazard just misses the cut, but honestly might still find his way in there when we know more as the season approaches. Again, I will timestamp each conversation about each guy. If anybody's catching this late and wants to revisit it, you are free to do that. Anybody that has any questions or comments that come up and you want to keep the conversation going, you can hit up our Discord. The Discord link, if you are not in there already, is the second link in this video and all of our most recent videos. All you have to do is click that. And you can join our growing community over there who love talking fantasy any opportunity that they can get. So feel free to join us there. If you are so inclined and like what you see from this channel, you can also become a member of this channel. We do offer perks for members. That is the first link in the description of this video and all of our most recent videos that will describe different perks that come along with being a member of this channel, different levels. That includes my draft plan, which I will be going in my tank relatively soon. Nobody will be hearing from me because I'll be in my lair putting my draft plan together. But the multiple perks there. Yep, the Bat Cave. There'll be no lights on. It's just me and my screen, just like losing my eyesight, but it's fine because it's the draft plan. You can also join leagues with us. You can play low stakes but still fun fantasy leagues with us if you are a member. Plenty of perks. The
low stakes, bro. You got bragging rights in those leagues.
Bragging rights.
Low stakes.
Well, there's no that's the monetary.
You'll be able to rub it in our faces every live stream. That's not low stakes.
That is high stakes in that regard. You're right. All right. I don't want to sell the leagues short, and we will be getting those set up as well. Regardless, there are other perks that you can read up on if you are so inclined. That brings us to the end of today's stream. Everybody have a phenomenal weekend. Stay safe, enjoy, and we got a slew of videos coming out for over the weekend. Next up tomorrow morning, I got a little rookie profile on Drake London's potential for 2022. We got some other things in the works. But until then, everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, y'all.